the Arabian Sea, 142 nautical miles south of the Iranian coast. March 9th, 4:47 local time. The nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN 72, operates at the center of Carrier Strike Group 3. The supercarrier cuts through the dark waters at 18 knots. She is flanked by the guided missile cruiser USS Mobile Bay and the destroyers USS Hopper, USS Pinckney, USS Kidd, and USS Sterett. The fast combat support ship USS Rainier completes the formation. Below the surface, running stealthily at patrol depth, is a Los Angeles-class fast attack submarine. High above, orbiting at 25,000 feet, an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft keeps watch. Its APY-9 radar scans every contact within a 350-mile radius. The strike group's complement totals over 6,500 sailors, marines, and aviators. Positioned on the flight deck are 44 farads per ampere, 18E, F Super Hornets, and 5 EA, 18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft. The air wing is rounded out by 4 E-2D Hawkeyes and 8 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters. Deep beneath the carrier's armored flight deck lies the Combat Direction Center, bathed in the soft glow of tactical displays. Tactical action officers monitor the massive data streams feeding in from every sensor across the battle group. The ship's 4 catapults are capable of launching an aircraft every 20 seconds. Twin nuclear reactors generate enough power to sustain continuous combat operations indefinitely without refueling. At this moment, it is the most heavily defended mobile position on the face of the Earth. And in less than 13 minutes, every single layer of that defense will be tested simultaneously. Deep within the mountain corridors and subterranean tunnel networks of western Iran, the IRGC Aerospace Force has been preparing for this exact moment for 11 months. Intelligence intercepts over the preceding 72 hours indicated a massive spike in activity. Movement was detected across 6 known ballistic missile launch zones. This included Tabriz, Kermanshah, Khorramabad, Isfahan, Shiraz, and a previously unconfirmed black site near Bandar Abbas. Overhead imagery from a KH-11 satellite at 2:15 confirmed the rollout of mobile transporter erector launchers at all 6 locations. Fueling trucks were in position, and launch crews were at their stations. The operation was given a code name, roughly translating to Sword of Retribution. Iranian strategic planners built this entire attack profile around one core calculation. They theorized that a massive salvo of 100 ballistic missiles, ripple-fired in a tight 9-0-second window from 6 separate vectors, would completely saturate the U.S. air defense grid. They expected the Aegis combat system to be physically unable to track, classify, and intercept every incoming threat. According to their math, at least a dozen warheads would leak through to the carrier. Even if the Aegis system operated at a 90% kill probability, 10 missiles would still pierce the defensive umbrella. Just 3 direct hits to the flight deck would be enough to achieve a mission kill on the USS Abraham Lincoln. This entire doctrine relied heavily on the element of surprise. At 4:38, exactly 9 minutes before the first launch, Strike Group Commander Rear Admiral Carolyn Dietrich received her final flash update. The transmission from the Joint Intelligence Center in Bahrain was brief. Launch sequence initiated, time on target, 9 minutes. Dietrich had already reconfigured the strike group into a modified diamond formation. USS Mobile Bay and USS Hopper took the vanguard. USS Pinckney and USS Kidd locked down the flanks, with USS Sterett guarding the rear. All 5 Aegis-equipped warships had been sitting at general quarters for the past 18 hours. Their SPY, 1D radar arrays, were radiating at maximum power. Every cell in their Mark 41 vertical launching systems was hot and armed with SM-3 Block 2IA and SM-6 interceptors. The weapon systems were toggled to fully automatic engagement mode. The Cooperative Engagement Capability Network linked all 5 ships into a single, seamless, integrated fire control grid. This meant any ship in the group could guide another ship's interceptor onto any target. The E-2D Hawkeye orbiting overhead was pumping real-time telemetry straight down into the data link. At 4:41, Dietrich issued a single command across the battle group's tactical net: weapons free. All stations engage assigned targets. No further authorization required. From that second forward, the Aegis system would fight the battle at the speed of machine algorithms. At 4:47, the first missiles cleared their launch rails. 17 Shahab, 3 medium-range ballistic missiles, lifted off simultaneously from pads near Tabriz and Kermanshah. 11 seconds later, 14 precision-guided Imad missiles blasted out of Khorramabad and Isfahan. At 4:48, 23 extended-range Ghadar 110S launched from Shiraz and the Bandar Abbas site. Between 4:48 and 4:49, 46 Fateh 313 and Dezful short-range tactical ballistic missiles ripple-fired into the sky. These were launched from mobile platforms that had been covertly shuffled along the southern coastline under the cover of darkness. The entire 100 missile salvo was airborne in just 87 seconds. On the E-2D's radar scopes, the airspace over Iran looked like a solid wall of rising tracks. Every single one was accelerating past Mach 3, arcing on ballistic trajectories toward a single grid square in the Arabian Sea. At 4:49, 2 minutes after the first launch, the Aegis system aboard USS Mobile Bay successfully correlated and classified all 100 inbound threats. The combat computer instantly calculated intercept geometry for every track and dynamically distributed the firing assignments across the 5 warships. Threats were aggressively prioritized based on time to impact and terminal velocity. The Shahab 3S and Ghadar 110S were riding high ballistic arcs with projected atmospheric re-entry speeds exceeding Mach 8. These were flagged for exo-atmospheric interception by the SM-3 Block 2IA interceptors. The Imads, equipped with maneuverable re-entry vehicles, were designated for mid-course interception by the SM-6S. The Fateh 313S and Dezfuls were flying depressed, low-altitude trajectories. They were bumped to terminal phase engagement using a mix of SM-6S and ESSM Block 2S. The system calculated that to achieve a 98% kill probability against all 100 inbound targets, it needed to put 147 interceptors in the air. This accounted for the Navy's shoot-shoot-look doctrine against high-leaker threats. Across the 5 ships, the battle group had 212 interceptors, hot and ready in the tubes. At 4:50, the first SM-3 Block 2IA erupted from the forward VLS cells of USS Mobile Bay, painting a massive pillar of fire against the pre-dawn sky. Over the next 40 seconds, 31 more SM-3S thundered off the decks of Mobile Bay, Hopper, Pinckney, and Kidd. Each interceptor accelerated past Mach 15, punching straight out of the Earth's atmosphere. Their mission was to meet the Shahab 3S and Ghadar 110S at the absolute apex of their ballistic arcs. At 4:53, 6 minutes after the Iranian launch, the first exo-atmospheric kills began. The SM-3 Block 2IA relies on a 50-pound kinetic kill vehicle. It destroys the target through sheer physical impact at closing speeds exceeding Mach 20. There are no explosives involved, just pure kinetic energy. The first Shahab 3, descending at Mach 9, was obliterated 97 miles above the Arabian Sea. The impact energy was the equivalent of a compact car slamming into a concrete wall at 15,000 miles per hour. The incoming warhead was instantly vaporized. Over the next 3 minutes, 32 of the 40 high-altitude targets were swatted out of the blackness of space. 8 leakers, consisting of 4 Shahab 3S and 4 Ghadar 110S, survived the exo-atmospheric gauntlet. They threaded the needle right through the seam between Mobile Bay and Pinckney's engagement envelopes. Those 8 surviving warheads continued their terminal plunge toward the strike group. At 4:56, 9 minutes into the engagement, the battle shifted seamlessly into the mid-course phase. The 14 Emad missiles crested their apogees and began their guided descents, instantly lighting up as primary targets for the SM-6S. The SM-6, sporting an active radar seeker, boasts an engagement range of 130 nautical miles. It is purpose-built to rip maneuvering targets out of the sky well inside the atmosphere. USS Kidd and USS Sterett ripple-fired 22 SM-6S in a highly coordinated salvo. The CEC network allowed the destroyer USS Sterett, positioned 38 miles astern of the carrier, to guide its missiles. It did this by riding the SPY-1D radar feed coming directly from USS Hopper, which was positioned 60 miles ahead of the carrier. This firing geometry was completely invisible to the Iranian missiles. The targets were being illuminated from one vector, but getting shot from an entirely different one. In exactly 90 seconds, all 14 EMAD warheads were destroyed at altitudes between 40 and 65 miles. The flaming debris rained down into the ocean over 70 miles away from the carrier. By 4:58, 11 minutes after the opening launch, 68 of the 100 Iranian missiles had been splashed. But the most lethal phase of the attack was just beginning. 46 Fateh, 313 and Des full tactical ballistic missiles were streaking in on depressed trajectories. Moving between Mach 4 and Mach 6, they were now punching into the terminal engagement zone, crossing the 30 nautical mile ring around the strike group. These weapons were specifically engineered to defeat naval air defenses by drastically shrinking the radar detection window. Aegis had been tracking them since boost phase, but their flat trajectory left a terrifyingly narrow window for a successful intercept. The defense immediately shifted into a layered terminal engagement mode. SM-6S took the outer ring, engaging targets between 25 and 15 nautical miles out. Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, ESSM Block 2S, quad-packed in the Mark 41 cells, began rippling out at high speed, taking the 15 to 5 mile bracket. Inside the 5-mile warning line, the Phalanx CIWS Block 1B mounts across the battle group woke up and opened fire. Firing at a rate of 4,500 rounds per minute, the rotary cannons threw up a dense wall of 20mm tungsten armor-piercing rounds directly into the flight paths of the incoming warheads. Between 4:58 and 5:1, the terminal defense grid chewed through 38 of the 46 low-altitude threats. SM-6 interceptors splashed 18 of them. ESSM Block 2S knocked down another 14. The Phalanx CIWS mounts shredded 6 more in a buzzsaw of depleted uranium and tungsten. Exactly 8 targets remained airborne from the low-altitude wave. At 5:1, 14 minutes into the fight, these 8 low-altitude leakers merged with the 8 high-altitude warheads that had survived the exo-atmospheric phase. Now, 16 live warheads were converging on the USS Abraham Lincoln, all inside of 12 nautical miles. The Aegis combat system had exactly 47 seconds to kill every single one of them. The computer dynamically retargeted every remaining ESSM in the air. All 6 Phalanx mounts across the strike group were locked into full auto terminal track. USS Hopper, positioned 4 miles off the carrier's bow, ripple-fired her last 8 ESSMs in a fan spread at the leading edge of the threat group. 7 found their marks. The CIWS mounts on USS Mobile Bay tore apart 2 more with long, sustained bursts. Sterett CIWS took down 3, and Pinckney's got 2. At exactly 5:2, 2 missiles remained in the air. They were 3.4 nautical miles off the supercarrier, closing at Mark 5. The carrier's own port-aft sponson, Phalanx CIWS, acquired the first target at 2.1 miles. The system spat out a furious 300 round burst. The warhead detonated 1.8 miles from the ship's hull. The shattered remnants crashed into the ocean just 400 yards off the port beam. The second missile, trailing by just 0.8 seconds, was engaged by the starboard CIWS mount at 1.4 miles. The tungsten penetrators shredded the warhead a mere 0.9 miles from the ship. It broke apart in mid-air, and the largest piece of debris splashed down a terrifying 220 yards from the hull. The concussive shockwave from the intercept was strong enough to rattle the teeth of the sailors manning the sponson decks. At 5:2 and 41 seconds, the Aegis combat system declared 0 incoming tracks, 100 missiles launched, 100 missiles destroyed, and 0 hits on the carrier strike group. The entire engagement had lasted 15 minutes and 54 seconds. But the battle damage assessment of Iran's launch infrastructure had already begun before the final intercept was even made. Back at 4:55, 8 minutes into the defense, while hostile missiles were still in the air, Rear Admiral Dietrich had authorized the counterstrike. The strike package consisted of 12 farads per ampere, 1-8E Super Hornets loaded heavy with JDAMs and AGM-154 joint standoff weapons. They were catapulted off the deck in elements of 2 over a blistering 4-minute window. They were immediately joined by 4 EA, 1-8G Growlers carrying ALQ-99 tactical jamming pods. 2 additional E-2D Hawkeyes launched to provide airborne battle management. The strike package formed up at 15,000 feet and pushed hard north toward the Iranian coast. At 5:22, 40 minutes after the first Iranian launch, the package crossed the coastline at 3 separate ingress points. The Growlers hit their jammers, throwing up a massive electronic warfare screen that blinded the Iranian air defense grid across a 200-mile front. S-300 PMU-2 and Bavar. 373 surface-to-air missile batteries near Bandar Abbas detected the incoming strike. However, their fire control radars were completely washed out by the electronic attack. The first flight of Super Hornets pickled off 8 AGM-154 JSO glide bombs from 40 nautical miles out, targeting the Bandar Abbas launch complex. Each standoff weapon carried a BLU-97 submunition dispenser. They glided to their targets in under 3 minutes. At 5:28, the submunitions blanketed the transporter erector launchers, fuel depots, and command vehicles across a 600 by 400-meter kill box. At 5:31, the second and third flights simultaneously struck the launch sites at Shiraz and Isfahan. Each flight dropped 4 precision-guided JDAMs from 22,000 feet. The 2,000-pound GBU-31S slammed into the earth within 10 feet of their designated aim points. Satellite imagery pulled 96 hours later confirmed the total destruction of all 6 launchers at Shiraz. The entrance to the subterranean tunnel complex in Isfahan was permanently collapsed by 2 direct hits from bunker-busting penetrators. At 5:38, the 4th flight hit the missile arsenal in Khorramabad. 6 GBU-31 JDAMs penetrated the heavily reinforced storage bunkers. Massive secondary explosions cooked off for over 20 minutes, confirming the catastrophic detonation of rocket fuel and warheads stored inside. At 5:45, exactly 1 hour after the initial Iranian attack, the final strike package reached its release point over Kermanshah. This site was defended by 2 Khordad 1-5 medium-range SAM systems. The escorting Growlers aggressively suppressed both batteries, using AGM-8E advanced anti-radiation guided missiles. The missiles rode the active radar beams straight down at Mach 2. Both Khordad 1-5 radars were violently disassembled just 14 seconds after emitting. With the air defenses neutralized, the Super Hornets dumped their remaining payload of 4,500-pound GBU-38 JDAMs onto the launch pads and command bunker. The entire site was operationally dead by 5:52. The strike packages turned south and pushed out of Iranian airspace. The Iranian air defense network failed to record a single successful intercept. 0 aircraft damaged and 0 pilots lost. The entire retaliatory operation took 53 minutes from the first launch off the catapults to the final bomb impact. Throughout the strike, every aircraft maintained total tactical situational awareness. The Growlers logged over 340 distinct instances of electronically jamming Iranian radars during the ingress and egress. Not a single Iranian SAM was fired at the formation. The integrated electronic attack had completely blinded the Iranian air defense grid across the entire southern sector. The strike fighters recovered aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln between 6:15 and 6:40. Every jet was immediately inspected, hot pit refueled, and rearmed. A secondary alert package of 8 Super Hornets was spotted on the flight deck. By 7:10, they were fully armed and ready to launch, awaiting any further tasking from CENTCOM. By 7, just 2 hours and 13 minutes after the first Iranian missile left the pad, the engagement was officially over. If you want to see more tactical breakdowns of modern naval warfare and carrier strike group capabilities, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments which strategic scenario we should analyze next.